My name is Noah Cruz, and this is Just an Idea, where I talk about an idea that I've had, that I've written for movies, TV shows, books, short stories, etc. Welcome back, or welcome to the show. This is day 2. In day 2, we'll talk heavily about my book universe, or at least half of it, probably all of it, depending on time. There's a lot of stories that include short stories, novellas, books, and screenplays, and somehow I've connected them all because I'm a fucking psychopath. And it's like I love universes because like the MCU is pretty big right now. So I wrote the universe though, like 3-4 years ago. Before I started connecting them, when I was like really young, like sophomore year of high school. That was 6 years ago. Getting old. Okay, anyway, just so you know, there's a total of 22 to 24 ideas in the universe. This timeline gets absolutely insane. I can easily focus one episode on each idea, which I will do. So I'm gonna do a brief short summary of each one, just talking about it, like 2 to 3 minutes on each one, pretty much. Yeah, I'm just reading my script. I will get off my script soon, I promise. None of these are fair use because all of these are like kind of like passion projects for me. I absolutely love all of these ideas, and if you want to work on that with me, like any of the stories, they don't have to all connect, of course, but I'm gonna go into how I connect them all, of course. So if you want to hit me up I believe for YouTube, if you're on YouTube, you can leave a comment or email me. And if you're on Anchor, I don't know how that works, or Spotify, still don't know how that works. I'm new to this, essentially. None of these are fair use. This is something I've been working on for 5 years or so, 6 years, and I can't give any of these for free. I'm very sorry. Come to see me for any questions, feel free. Okay, I covered all that. We're good. By the way, I am filming this at 12:29 a.m. because I was supposed to record this on Thursday, and I'm very late. I'm very sorry. Sundays, I don't know when I'll upload these weekly or whatever. I've had a lot go on. I'm starting a new job, so I have to really make time for this. I guess I'll start recording these in the morning. I don't know. But for everyone listening, I don't think it matters. For everyone watching, again, I don't think it matters. I didn't commit to anything. Anyway, first, I will let you know that all of these all started as books that I was going to write, and I initially thought I would release it in an order that made 0 sense. I don't know why, honestly, but the more I pondered it, I'd rather release them in order and let people figure out that it was one massive timeline scattered throughout its own universe. Just not say anything, but I'm saying it now, so no one's gonna really see these, so it doesn't matter. I always thought that would be fun. Second, a lot of characters in these stories have identical names. It is on purpose, and it's to show that they are connected. Some have different names, but the two main characters are always Alex, or Alex spelled A-L-X, or A-L-E-X, either of those spellings, and then Sarah without an H at the end or an H at the end. These names have a special place in my heart for being the best fucking names that I could think of at the time. And I have wondered about changing some of the names, and I have for a few, but there's a point where all the characters started having the same names, and they just fit better with the narrative of the timeline, so just go with it. Third, I don't have a third. This is literally what I wrote in the script. I'm tired. I just watched a movie called Licorice Pizza. The age difference is kind of but like the two love interests, one's 15 and the other one's 25, but it's the 70s, and I don't know if I should give that a pass, but the movie was good. I thoroughly enjoyed the movie, though. It was a pretty good movie. Anyway, but things usually work better in threes. That's why I give it a third one. Anyway, let's get right into these ideas, and I can stop reading the script. Thank you, Noah, for saying that. I have a book. People at home, I will show the book to. We're watching all these ideas. Now, it doesn't, one page, this one page here has all of them. Now, it doesn't look like 22 to 24, but you'll understand why. Like I said, I will be breaking all of these down briefly, and then starting next week, I will go into more detail on each idea, essentially. The first idea of my book universe takes place in the year, I wrote in the scripts the years because it'll get confusing if I don't say the years. The first one is in 1924, and it's called Complicated Dreams. Now, Complicated Dreams originally started, I'll get into that next week, I guess. Complicated Dreams is a pretty fun story. Essentially, there are beliefs of these students that go to this private school that the world will eventually deeply go into either agriculture, war, or it'll go into an uncertainty that no one really knows. So there are three little criteria. I think I put it in. I started writing all these short summaries. I'm not going to read them though. Fields. These three fields, factions, whatever you want to call it. It was inspired by Divergent, but the movies got really bad. The books took a weird turn. Anyway, essentially, there are three factions, three fields in which students can study, and they can pick for their entire high school years, essentially. Sorry, you can only see my forehead. Let me back up. There it is. There's agriculture, war, or advanced warfare, I put it in the book, and philosophy, essentially. They're just building leaders. And they all have nicknames for each other, called, what is it? Agriculture, they're called the worms because they dig up in the dirt. Then there's, for the dreamers are in Cloud 9, essentially. And then the warheads, war is in the name, because they're easily tempered, even though they're like advanced soldiers that know the crazy shit. Anyway, it's broken down in 3 acts, and I did that on purpose. It's not a play or anything like that. I did start writing it as a book. It did not go well. Then I started writing it as a screenplay. It got better. Doesn't mean it's good by any means, but it's better. And Act 1 is called Triangles because essentially they are all just going through high school, starting in their sophomore year. I skipped freshman year because it's not needed. I swear to God, it's not needed. But in their sophomore year, they're essentially like building relationships all around each other, and it's pretty much just like a high school regular drama. But then in Act 2, by the end of Act 1, leading into Act 2, they realize some dark secrets about the school. Essentially, they have to figure out the secrets to understand what's going on a certain day of the year. And Act 2 goes into the history of the school. It literally starts from when this school started until where they are now. And halfway through Act 2, then it picks back up with the high schoolers, where they need to go to their headmaster and be like, we found some stuff out and we need you to explain it. And then Act 3 just goes insane. And essentially, the history of the school, I'll make this as quick as possible. The history of the school is simple. I don't want to go into it because I kind of want to save it for the next episode. Listen, high schoolers dealing with relationships, and then they figure out the history of the school and they start flipping shit, and then they have to confront the person who ran the school from the beginning. And then the third act is complete bonkers. Literally, the best I can give you for it is that they go into heaven, they go into hell, and they live in purgatory. It's interesting. I can't really go into it without spoiling it, so that will be saved for next week's episode. I will go into very deep detail on exactly what that is. But it's kind of a cool story. I'm not going to go into it though because I want to save it for the next episode. I really said I was going to say quick summaries, but I'm doing a terrible job and I'm just going to move on. Anyway, that's just an idea. The second is called The Dog in the Park, and it takes place in the 1950s. I can be brief on this one as well. It's pretty simple for this one. By the way, none of these are fair use. None. In the 50s, there's like 3 recessions, by the way. It was not a perfect time. Anyway, essentially, there is a boy who's in love with a girl. They go on plenty of dates, and they spend time together frequently, and the family starts noticing, like, you are spending way too much time with this girl, you need to relax. And it takes a pivot when, I don't want to spoil it, but it takes a pivot when he realizes that his entire life is changing around him because he's so focused on being with this girl and no one else, and it's affecting his behavior, the way he lives, the way he speaks. Like, it's freaking everyone out, and it's putting him in a trance, and he doesn't know how he's going to get out of the situation that he's in, essentially. And it's a love story at heart. It'll be short. I wanted to write this as a novella. I didn't want it to be more than 100 pages. And I don't think it will ever be more than 100 pages. But it was meant to be just a simple love story with a crazy twist, because all my stories, again, have crazy fucking twists. That's just how when I'm looking at the camera, that's just how I work. Crazy twists at the end. Yeah. Anyway, third story is called It's a Love Story, I Swear, and it takes place in the early 2000s. I said it there because I don't like cell phones in movies. That's what Hollywood is dealing with right now. That's why there's a lot of movies in the 70s and 80s and the past right now, because Hollywood does not know how to deal with cell phones. And I'll tell you why. Any problem can be fixed by calling the police. Horror movies have trouble with it. Period pieces make sense right now in Hollywood. That's why there's so many of them, because they don't have to focus on phones. It's crazy how, like, an entire industry is like, we have cell phones now. We can't have them in our movies. It'll fuck us up. And this one, I see it as like a TV series, honestly. Season 1 and 2 for this. And it's early 2000s, like I said. For this one, there'd be like flip phones, but essentially there's no one really to call when shit goes down, and that's on purpose, like I said. So It's a Love Story, I Swear is written from a sophomore in high school. I was in high school when I wrote these stories, let me be honest. And he lives next to the most popular girl in school, as well as the least popular girl in school. And essentially, he asks the love of his life, the most popular girl in school, out because it's the last day of school and he has to. I think this one's actually set in middle school. I'll look more into it. I definitely wrote some pages down for this one, but it was either 8th grade or sophomore year of high school. I don't know which one I put. I think I changed it multiple times, that's why. But I think it would make more sense if this one was in middle school. I might do this one in middle school. We'll get into that on the third podcast, I guess, of this series. But he's absolutely infatuated, I don't know the fucking word, with this girl, so he has to ask her out, and it backfires when he realizes that she's in love with this other guy that she's never talked to. Yeah, this is probably middle school, let's be honest. And essentially, when they get off the bus drives off, and they're all talking, even with the most unpopular girl in school, because he kind of has to just put up with her. He's an asshole, let's be honest. This guy's an asshole. And they all watch a vehicle speed past them and drive into an empty lot and disappear in midair. And they're like, what the fuck did we just see, and why did we see it, and why is this happening to us? So essentially they go over to the lot and find out, like, they're walking on it, nothing's going on, and they're just super confused. And then they start seeing all throughout summer, that first week when they saw it, they keep seeing vehicles driving into their cul-de-sac in the middle of nowhere, entering this pot of land, and just disappearing. And they're super confused. So it's a mystery, essentially. They have to figure it out. And then they figure it out by the end. This one would be a series. They figure it out by the end of the series. And then season 2, I don't make trilogies, by the way, unless it's absolutely necessary. So this one doesn't have a trilogy. Essentially, they figure out what's going on, and in the second season, I don't want to go into it, but they start working together with whatever's happening and become important figures in the things that I don't want to go into it too much, but it's a mystery. The first season's a mystery, sci-fi mystery, and then the second season is more sci-fi, I would say a sci-fi thriller will go into that, but essentially they're just trying to figure out what's going on in their neighborhood without causing any trouble. That's why Flip Phones works in this situation, because who are you going to call for that? Call the police, see what happens. They're not going to know. They're going to walk on the field like they just did, and nothing's going to be there. Anyway, just an idea. The next thing is called Atom Splits, and it takes place around 2025 or so, just around the 2020s. I don't want to get too into the times of where we are now, so I wanted to go a little past that if this ever gets made. Essentially a middle schooler. This one is in middle school. It's 8th grade, either 7th or 8th grade. It doesn't matter. Either one works. He has a dad who is a scientist, very smart, single father, has to take care of his son, right? And the son's name is Atom, spelled A-T-O-M, because I don't know how the mother convinced him of that, but he did. So essentially one of his experiments went awry one day, and his mother happened to get in the way, and she saved her son to protected her son when the experiment happened to explode, and the father was the only one that's left, and he had to lie and say like he doesn't know what it was or anything like that. It's pretty fucked up. But science fair comes around, and he has nothing. He has to have something, of course, and it's unfortunate because his dad's an actual scientist who works for the government, and he has nothing. He's not the smartest person, but he knows enough to pass all of his classes, or like he doesn't want to admit that he knows more than his teachers, so he plays dumb, but he just passes his classes, you know. And science fair came up, and he has nothing. He needs something. He just needs something. So he goes into his dad's workshop in the garage and finds this device where there's no science behind this, just go with it. I've looked into it, it's not possible, but just go with it. He finds a device where you can rip, instead of split, rip an atom. Just, it rips it. And if you can withhold that energy, you can freeze time. Now, I got this from a dream, and this is 100% a movie, and or I want to keep it a book though, like a book for young adults / it's middle school. I guess I have to keep it PG. Just right around middle school so people can relate to it in some way. I don't know, but he finds the blueprints for it and then starts building it, and it's super dangerous because if you split an atom, it's a nuclear bomb, but if you rip an atom, you freeze time. So he builds a belt, and the belt is connected like with wires to his hands. So essentially he's just like holding his arms up, and He claps his hands, which puts atoms in the palm of his hands, and then he stretches his hands open, and it essentially rips the atom inside his belt buckle, and you see a light flash, and it's purple. Again, this is not scientific, just run with it. And it holds the light, and as long as the light is shown, time is frozen for except the person that is wearing the belt. Again, not scientifically possible, just again, run with it. So he goes to the science fair and shows like everyone that it works. And his dad was actually one of the judges, and when he sees that it works, he flips shit, and he goes, "You can't show this to anyone. You need to destroy this." And he's like, "I don't know how to destroy it." Like, it sounds like freaking out, right? He's like, "You can't have this." And it got to a point where the story continues, and by the end of the story, the government finds the device essentially and tries to use it as warfare. You know, freeze time. You can do anything, you know, all around the world. And since it freezes time, you can use it in warfare, of course. And the government finds the belt, enlarges it, which is bad. And the dad has to destroy the machine that they built. And I kind of have to spoil the ending for this one for the rest of these ideas that are connected to make sense. So it gets convoluted because at the ending of Atom Splits, get it? Split, it's rips open, but yeah, you know, it splits when they rip, when the dad destroys the machine, it doesn't rip the atom. Essentially, it splits the atom, but instead of causing a nuclear explosion, it explodes and accidentally merges its energy with another machine that would connect to a parallel universe. Just connects. But he was in the explosion and he got sent into a parallel universe. Kind of crazy. It's fun. It's a fun thing. Science, non-existent. How all these stories connect, I will explain later, probably at the beginning of next week's podcast, because I'm running this one pretty long. But this is where it gets a little convoluted. So now you have two universes, right? For the sake of time, I will go in the second universe, the parallel universe. I'll just refer to the parallel universe, to the universe we were just in, to help break down technically the sequel. It's a sequel to the idea. And it starts off with the Forbidden Society. It takes place about 10 years after the events of Atom Splits, and it's kind of crazy. So the dad is trying to get back to his original universe, but this universe, the parallel universe that he's in, isn't as super technically advanced, technologically advanced, got it. Like, they're in the same years and everything, but the technology is not there yet. They're like in the 2000s technology, right? So he has to pretty much build things from scratch, build big machines, and in 10 years, he makes his own company, essentially what he was doing in the regular universe, but now here. Without telling anyone, he essentially built a machine back to his universe. But to do it, it takes energy from all around the world, and the only way to get back is to set up signals all connected from around the world, pointed in a certain direction to reach a beacon in an area, and then he can get transported. But the thing is, if you're next to the tower to point at the beacon, you also get transported to the parallel universe. So he decides to open up an internship. And the internship essentially says you're invited to do an experiment with this guy, and the only way to fully enter is you send in an application, you do all this crazy stuff, right? And I believe 9 people were selected. It's about 9 people were selected. There are 11 characters, but there's 9 people were selected because one has twins, and then it goes into the dad's backstory. This is a novella series. It's a novella series, but you can take essentially each chapter and cram it down, or each novella and cram it down into like a chapter, and it can be just like 11 chapters essentially, because there's 9 characters. There's the dad's backstory, or 9 people were selected. One has twins, so that's 10, but there's 11 chapters because each character gets their own chapter, except the twins. They get a pair together, and then that's 9. And then the dad itself, he gets his own chapter, and then the ending, the last chapter, that finishes out essentially. And so he picks people from all around the world, expecting to bring everyone of those people to the regular universe. But instead, he fucked up and sent the entire, I'm not kidding you, the entire population, except the people that he picked, to the regular universe. That's a lot of people. Except 11. Except 10, 11 people, which is bananas. You fucked up. And so they all have to get to the scientist building, essentially, the company, and figure out what to do next. This is from all around the world, so I did a lot of research on different cultures, on how people would talk, how they live. This one was like the hardest to research because there's people from Africa, Sweden, the US, Australia, China, India, and there's a couple more. They're everywhere. Let me be honest with you. They're fucking everywhere. I think someone's from the Philippines. The twins are from the UK because they're assholes. They're assholes essentially. But I can't really go into it, but we'll talk about it later. But that's just an idea. And then in the same parallel universe, about 100 years after the events of the Forbidden Society, comes Saving Hidden Cities. It's where a group of people find cities on other planets and help them via communication through satellite transmissions. It is an interesting story because they thought they were sending signals into space when someone was actually tapping into their satellites, or their their satellites, their beacons to send out the messages. They're actually coming from underground without knowing it, because they would get responses really quickly, not like thousands of years, instead like a few minutes, and they were super confused. Like they either had to be ridiculously close, like right outside the fucking Earth, or they had to be on Earth, and they have to, it's like a mystery because they're only communicating with each other via satellite transmissions. Essentially, the people on Earth are trying to figure out how to help this city. They have no idea where it is, but they think it's in space when it's actually underground. That is not a spoiler. It's like halfway through the short film. I want that one to be a short film, or like 3 episode limited series. Like it's not supposed to be anything big, and then it ends with crazy cliffhanger. And this one's technically a trilogy, but I'm not saying it's a trilogy because it has different characters, and it is not technically a continuation. But then the next idea is saving hidden cities, or saving hidden planets, and let me just say to you right now, it is completely different from saving hidden cities. Saving hidden cities and saving hidden planets just have the same names, and that is for a reason. And I will not get into it because it would take too fucking long. Because I'm already 30 minutes in, and I don't know how many I've explained. So when I say 22 to 24, that's the Forbidden City, because there's 11 chapters, which is technically 11 ideas because there's different characters, and it goes into it. But saving hidden planets, and they have a connection, and it's very brief and it's very dumb, but it works. This one does have a series, a season 2, and season 2 is absolutely insane. But essentially, season 1 are these high school students, their junior year of school. I'm debating if it's going to be junior year or senior year, because it'll be better for character development if they're seniors, but it would be better for the story as a whole if they were juniors. I can go into the episodes layer into layer pretty easily, but I won't get into it today. But essentially, it starts off on the week of prom, and they're just trying to figure out who they're going to prom with, and by the end of the week, they go to prom, they're having a good time, they hear a loud noise outside, they go outside and see a spaceship in the sky, and they're like, what the fuck is going on? And the central characters, I believe it's Spencer, Johnny, Alex, there's an Alex, Sarah, and Olivia. This is 5 characters. And they have to, they get beamed up, they go into space, and then they wake up and realize that they're in fucking space and they don't know what's going on. They look at the Earth, and they're like, one of the characters says, flat earthers were wrong. It was a random line, like they're freaking out. So there's a character that just says like witty shit like that because he's awkward, okay? But he's like, I guess the flat earthers were wrong. The Earth is round. That just comes out of left field, and then they hear a squeak noise, like a phew, and then they see a missile heading towards Earth, and then Earth fucking explodes. And that's how episode 1 starts. That's how episode 1 starts. It's crazy. Episode 1 is literally, I've written the screenplay for episode 1, and it's like 400 pages, so it's literally a movie length long. But see, the rest of the episodes are like 50 minutes because season 1 is all about character development, and they have to episode 1 is really like, you by the end of the episode you understand all the characters and how they would think and everything. So when you watch the rest of the episodes, essentially you know what character, why a character made a certain decision, and so there's a lot of like fun stuff you can do with that when you understand the characters, you know, because if you leave a mystery in a character, you'd be like, why are they doing that? That's so dumb. And I don't really like that kind of narrative. I kind of want you to know why they're doing it, you know. For this series, it makes sense on why you want them to do that. But the person who captured them comes up, and they're called Mr. President, and not the actual president, but essentially they have to help a planet. They have to kill aliens to stop them from forcing a volcano to explode, so they can save other people, other aliens on the planet, because that volcano, if it explodes, destroys the entire planet. I will not get into it. It's a crazy story, but It's really good. I swear to God, it's good. My mom read over it. She hates sci-fi, and she was like, "This shit's pretty good." So I will go into that when it gets there. But there's a sequel, and the sequel goes deep. It's deep. I can't explain it, but it's deep. It's absolutely insane. Like, season 1 is really understanding what is actually happening. It's a mystery in a way as well. You understand why characters are doing things, but you don't really understand the story until the very last episode. And then season 2 is just like, why does this matter? And it's crazy. This is still the parallel universe, but now we are returning to the original universe. Original universe. Right after Atom splits, about 200 years later, 200 years after Atom splits, back in the regular universe, comes the idea of the perfect world. This is Alex, ALX, and Sarah, SARA, and this world is weird. They live in a big dome, and that idea has been around forever, but it's been 200 years since Atom splits, and as you can remember, the Earth was overpopulated because the dad fucked up, and so there was a huge war, but no one at this time knew about the war. Essentially, the US closed off a section of its land and put it in a dome, and these people now live in this perfect world. Essentially, you get born. If you have one small defect, they will kill you as a baby because they can't have babies with defects or people with defects. And oh no, my roommates are coming out. Oh no. Pause. Start. This is what I get for doing this so late at night. My roommates are up and at 'em. I should finish this in like 10 minutes, I promise. Then comes the perfect world. Like I said, you get a baby defect, you fucked, you die. But in certain circumstances, they have to meet a quota where they can have babies with defects, but essentially they're a nuisance to society, and no one knows about their defect until later in life anyway. So there was a girl, Sarah, who gets picked, and Alex, who gets picked, both with defects, and they have to live together with their parents, who they call mother and father, nothing else. Alex and Sarah are called brother and sister. It's weird. It gets weirder, right? Because they're not actually brother and sister, but they are brother and sister. They get raised by their parents, and then at a certain age, about second, third grade, they have to take a test. And if they pass the test, they go into society and are assigned a job and must learn their skill and then work that job for the rest of their lives until they become their own mother and father. So brother and sister gets new names. Brother becomes father, and mother becomes her sister becomes mother. So they're essentially together for the rest of their lives. But it's not weird because they're not actually brother and sister. It's okay. It's just the way of life. But if you fail the test, you are sent to a camp where essentially you are considered to have the defects, essentially. All the defects go there. And if you're not killed or you get past them and you fail the test because you're an actual defect, you are then trained to fight. Fight what, you may ask? Well, I think it's around like chapter 12 or 13. Sarah and Alex get sent out and have to fight in a war over land because the world is overpopulated. Do you see the connection? It's a good connection. I don't care what you say, but the story is pretty good. North Koreans are our best friends, apparently. They helped us out in the end. It was topical when I wrote it in 9th grade, and it's still topical now. I don't think I'll probably change that. I'll probably change most of the names of the countries in the story. And then my next idea is called Depression Kills. It's in the year 2461. So the perfect world takes place in 2261, essentially. Around that time. So 200 years after the wars that took place over population is an idea called Depression Kills. This one is a short story. This is a short story. Like, I think I wrote this in 11th grade and it won a contest, Go Me, and it was 20 pages long. That was it. I could probably rewrite it now and probably make it like 40 pages long because I've grown. I describe things better. But essentially a girl has to, this is around diversion as well, has to make a choice either to go through happiness, a door. They have to take a test and they have to go through a door that either says happiness or curiosity, and everyone just picks happiness because who wants to be curious when you can be happy? But she's curious, so she goes through the curiosity door, and it leads down this hallway, and I believe I wrote it in as in no one makes it to the end of the hallway, and that's the point, because you were curious. You now have to suffer challenges related to your curiosity. Essentially you're fucked. By the end of the story, it goes bonkers, but 2 years later after that comes the last of my book / TV series / short story universe. I said I'd never do trilogies unless it's absolutely necessary, and I think it's funny that my book universe / whatever universe you want to call it ends with a trilogy. It works with the names. I've been writing the trilogy forever now. I think my sophomore year of high school, when I had to do creative writing, I started this, and it's called Snow Battle. The next one is called Water Battle, and the third one is called Sand Battle. And it is topical to the stories. Snow Battle, it's like the Hunger Games. They fight with snow, but when you mold the snow into stuff, it turns into whatever you're turning it into. So if you make a snowball, it turns into a rock, essentially. If you make a snow grenade, it turns into a grenade, stuff like that. It's like a really fun idea, but that's not like the entire story. It's actually a really cool story. I might go into this one a little bit more for the sake of time, and then I will keep Water Battle and Sand Battle out of it. But Snow Battle essentially is huge on VR games, virtual reality games around this time, but it's not just virtual reality anymore. It is it's real virtual reality, so it's RVR. Essentially, you put your body like on a platform, and it scans your body and then physically puts you into a video game, and then it's the Hunger Games. They essentially kill each other, but when you die, you get sent back into the real world, and you don't actually die. It's just a video game, right? So it's real virtual reality, because it's it feels like actual reality. No one looks like a 2D or 3D figure in like cartoon form. It's like they actually physically look like everything is real to them. You feel the pain, you feel everything, but when you die, you get sent back. You get sent back. So there's 6 main characters, 6 or 7, and they go into the real virtual reality, or RVR, and are fighting for a prize fund. This is for money. So there's about 1,000 people in it, and it ends within 5 days, which is bananas. But they know they have to kill each other. They know everything that's gonna happen. But the main character, Alex, takes it personally. I think I changed the names for this one, but the main character for this story, he takes it personally, and emotionally, instead of like treating it as a game. And it really dives deep into the relationships of the people, what people are willing to do for this money, and it's kind of really fun. But the way it ends, I cannot spoil it. But I wasn't gonna write a sequel or a trilogy for this, but I loved the world that I was building within it. But I will say, the way that this is connected to Depression Kills is that in Water Battle, not going to say much, but they meet a character from the past, from 2 years ago, and it's Alex, female in this one, for Depression Kills. And I never stayed in the story of whether they're male or female, but I was like, it's probably better that they're female for this one. And they're a leader of a tribe. Yeah, it gets weird. You're going from RVR to a tribe. What's up with that? You're gonna find out later. But the leader of the tribe is Alex. That's how that's connected. So that's like a prequel, like a backstory for that. I can go to a lot of backstories of some of the people that are in Snow Battle, but I realize that's overkill, and the only person that should technically have a backstory is Alex herself. So anyway, that should do it for today's podcast. Sorry, I'll go into specifics on every story, every idea that I gave. So it's like, the schedule, you just knock it out. The schedule. Everything I just said is the schedule. You got it. Life is great. Like I said, nothing is fair use. These all have a special place in my heart because I've written them for over 6 years, and I'm really passionate about this stuff. Next week, we will talk about complicated dreams. And I guess, thanks for listening. Like I said, this is all just an idea.